tell you something. He said, my son is probably going to die in the next year. He said, but he's been looking forward to this for months. And he said, so you put on your game face and you go out there and you do what you do. And that has stuck with me for years. As you can tell, I mean, it still chokes me up.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, you know. As sad a memory as that is, it's a fond memory because you don't always understand what impact you have on someone else's life.
Right.
You know, so, anyway, I'm sorry. Sorry I got a little choked up there.
No, that's okay. That's what they make a wish for, you know, for these dying kids to have a final wish.
It's a great organization, and yeah, I don't know how they do it week in and week out. You know, I mean, it was tough to do when we did it, but, you know, obviously we're always happy to do it and proud that they asked us. But, yeah, that was a memory that has stuck with me for years. You know, that, like I said, you just sometimes don't realize what impact you have on someone else.
Right.
You know? And until that situation occurs, and you know, the father was just so gracious. You know, I'll never forget that.
Wow. Yeah, it's you know, it's always nice when you could put an impact on something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, race wins come, race wins go, and I mean the race wins were fabulous, and they were high points, and they were special moments, you know, that I'll never forget. You know, with spending time with my crew, celebrating, and you know, all of those sorts of things. And after sitting out for those years, and I came back in 1994 with Fruit of the Loom on the side of the car and won the first race again. You know, won Pomona again, and beat Al Hoffman in the final on a hole shot. You know, I mean, that's a memory that sticks out. You know, I mean, I won the Winter Nationals in 1994 on a hole shot against Al Hoffman. But you know, it's those other things. You know, those things that aren't televised, those things that aren't in front of people, those things that, you know, are more private moments. You know, that really are things now, especially, you know, that you reflect on and think about, and that have more meaning to you than any of the trophies or any of the accolades.
Yep. So now, Casey, what would you consider your biggest win?
Well, I think obviously the win at the Winter Nationals in 1990, because it was just so unexpected. You know, I mean, the NHRA did a thing several years ago, and you know, that was the biggest upset of the decade. And you know, I'd literally gotten my license 6 days or so before the Winter Nationals, and you know, we'd go out there and win. I was number 16 qualifier. We had some problems in the clutch can and did not qualify well. So I'm number 16 qualifier. I've got John Force the first round. I beat Force. I had R.C. Sherman, who was the defending IHRA world champion, in the second round. I beat R.C. I had Bruce Larson in the semis, who was the defending NHRA world champion. I beat Larson, go to the finals against Ed the Ace McCullough, and win the race. And, you know, that is the first time in the history of drag racing a rookie has won his first professional drag race. And, you know, no matter what happens, that's all. Nobody can be the first again, you know. So that's something that I've always, you know, been really proud of. Darrell Russell did it after I did, and Gary Selzy did it after I did. But you know, I was the first to do it, and so that's a really special moment. So I would, you know, that has to be the biggest win. I mean, that was the first one, and that, you know, certainly will always be a very special memory.
So how many Wallies have you won?
I actually won 2. You I wish I would have won more, obviously, but I won the Winter Nationals twice, and then I won the Summer Nationals, which was an IHRA race in Bristol, Tennessee.
All right, now I'm going to ask you a few fun questions here now.
Sure, absolutely.
Outside of drag racing, what are your other hobbies?
I'm generally so busy. I'm one of those guys that really I don't have a lot of hobbies. I enjoy great cigars, and so I'm always on the hunt for a rare cigar or a great cigar. I'm a bourbon aficionado, so I'm always looking for a really good bourbon or a rare bourbon. But I'm just not a guy. I'm not a hobby guy. I'm just not somebody that can sit down with some sort of hobby and relax and spend a lot of time with a hobby.
So all these years you've been away from drag racing, all you've been doing is smoking cigars and drinking bourbon?
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Wow. And now you're ready to
I'm in a bar now. I mean, that makes perfect sense, right? I'm doing this radio show from a bar. So.
And now you're ready to get back in the funny car again.
I am, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, it all works out, and I'm already talking to a few companies, that are interested in some sponsorship. So, it takes money to run one of these things, whether it's your own team or whether you're driving for somebody else and just paying for the ride. It's not an inexpensive sport. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like John Forrest, he knows how to get out there and get those sponsors.
He does, but I mean, look what happened to Forrest this year. We had the pandemic, and some of his sponsors, pulled back, and so John's cars are sitting at the shop, and John isn't racing. So
right. Now, if you could do time traveling, hit a time travel machine and go backwards in time, would you do anything differently with your drag racing career?
I think, yes, I would. To be perfectly honest, I would have not made the decision in 1990, at the end of 1990, to go NASCAR racing. I would have stayed and kept drag racing. I would have stayed in NHRA. I think that was a mistake. At the time, I let other people that I had incredible respect for convince me to do something different, and that didn't work out. So I definitely would have not made that same decision.
All right. Now, do you have any kids?
I do not. No kids.
Never married?
Never married.
Why not?
It just never seemed to pan out. Back then, especially, and I'm not anti-marriage by any means. It just hasn't worked out. But you never know what might happen tomorrow. So
yeah, maybe
I'm an optimist.
Maybe when you start drag racing, you'll meet some ladies.
There's been some fun things happen in my life in the past 6 months or so that I'm really happy about. So we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Now, do you still have a fire suit?
I do, actually, and I pulled one out of my closet the other day and put it on, and the thing still fit. In fact, it actually fits better now than it did then. And but I've got some new helmets coming from Bell. Bell always supported me towards the end of my career. I was a Simpson guy for a long time. Bell actually has a couple of helmets. Shells being shipped out to John Pugh at Gunslinger Graphics in Colorado, and JP is going to put something fabulous on my shells for me, and the uniform company that built my uniforms there at the last of my career, TriStar Uniforms in North Carolina, Ed Cox and his folks are already working up a couple of uniform designs for me. So, if everything comes together, I'll be out there and be ready to go.
Awesome. Well, here's some more fun questions for you. What is your favorite food to eat?
My favorite food? Oh my gosh, that's a tough one because I'm kind of a foodie. foodie. There's not much food I don't like. I would have to say, my favorite food is probably just a really good ribeye. I'm a big Ruth's Chris Steakhouse fan, and I'm in East Tennessee. There's some restaurants. My buddy owns a wonderful restaurant in Gatlinburg, Tennessee called Howard's, and they've got a great ribeye. And so I would say a ribeye steak probably.
All right, favorite beverage?
Favorite beverage? Well, that's got to be a bourbon, right? I mean, we just talked about that earlier. So yeah, give me a high-end bourbon, neat, and I'm happy to go.
And what if we go non-alcohol? What is favorite beverage?
A favorite beverage, non-alcohol related, would probably be coffee. Much to the dismay of a lot of people that know me, they say I drink too much coffee, but probably coffee.
All right, favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie? That's an easy one. Arthur with Dudley Moore. I love that movie.
All right, so what's your favorite music?
I listen to a lot of different music, and here lately I've been listening to a lot of country music. My dad was in the country music business, and I have a lot of friends that are still in that business. But a lot of times, I guess my favorite music would probably be the blues. I love the blues.
Now, you said you used to crank up music at the track. What you used to play at the track?
Well, my crew chief Swearingen was in charge of the music, and to be honest about it, he played a lot of things I didn't like, but I had no control over that. He would get irritated if I tried to change the music. So, but he played, pretty much rock and roll. We played it loud. That was a big thing. It was in my transporter. We had an incredible sound system. So, but he was in charge of the music. I did, even though I owned the team, I didn't get to choose the music.
All right, now Casey, when you were a little kid, growing up, what was your favorite cartoon to watch?
A favorite cartoon? Oh my gosh, I would have to say Foghorn Leghorn or the Roadrunner. That was probably my two favorites. Yeah.
I said, hold on there, boy.
Exactly. Yeah. I say, boy. Yeah. Yeah. So Foghorn Leghorn or the Roadrunner.
Yeah, I remember that cartoon all the time, seeing that all the time. You're a chicken. I'm a chicken hawk.
Exactly. I'm a chicken hawk.
Yep. Then he always point him toward the dog. That's the chicken, the dog. Yeah.
Dog.
Yeah, the poor dog would always get it blamed for being a chicken, man. All right, so now at the track, when you're at the track for a day of racing, what were your eating habits? Did you eat lightly and wait till the races are done, or did you eat regularly?
No, I pretty much ate, just normally. I'm not a big breakfast person, so I normally wouldn't eat much for breakfast in the transporter or in my motorhome. But lunch, I would eat pretty much whatever my crew guys were eating. We always made sure we had a lot of different food. We'd go grocery shopping. My dad and my PR and marketing person and I, that was sort of our job every race weekend. So we would go do that. There was always a lot of food in the transporter and or my motorhome. And but no, I normally ate just regular. Like I said, I was never a nervous driver, so I wasn't worried about my stomach being upset or any of those kind of things. And so I would just pretty much eat what everybody else ate.
So how many
times I would go raid the Winston Suite and have lunch in the Winston Suite because they were obviously always catered. And so I'd go up there and see what they had to offer.
So how many crew members did you have?
I think in '95, just crew members, we had 8 guys on the road, and then I had a full-time marketing person, had a full-time PR person, but we had 8 actual crew members.
So now, on a race day, how did you get your mind, in set for a race? How do you get in your mind game?
Again, it really was never tough for me. And I thought about this not too terribly long ago. I was sometimes when you're in a stock car, when I was running stock cars or I was running road racing cars, you have the pace laps. And so you have sort of that time to warm up and get your brain in gear and do what you need to do. And that's how you do it in those cars. Well, if you don't have that, how do you do that? But I always did it. And I've always, for years, I tried to figure out what was the key, what switched me over from what I was doing to what I was getting ready to do. And I was actually standing in the staging lanes in Norwalk, Ohio, and I was getting ready to get in the car and make a qualifying run. I was actually driving the Carrier Boys Top Fuel car, and I'm getting everything on, and I pulled my helmet on. And it dawned on me the minute I pulled that helmet on that was my switch. That was when I switched over, and that's when I was focused, is when I slipped that helmet on. And it was as quick and simple as that. I mean, I didn't have to psych myself up. I didn't have to do anything different. When I pulled that helmet on, I was ready to go. And again, I was incredibly comfortable. I mean, believe it or not, I fell asleep strapped into the funny car one time. We were, I don't even know where we were, but it was a qualifying. Somebody had oiled down in front of me. I'm already in the car. I'm the next car up. And they just said, it's not going to take long, stay in the car. So they would always start me first because I did the long burnout. So the little NHRA guy comes over, he tells my team to start. My guys look at me to give them the go-ahead to start the car. No response from me. So they're kind of standing there looking at me. My visor's about halfway down. NHRA guy comes over again. One of my crew guys finally realized that I was asleep in the car. So he comes over and kind of whacks me on the side of the helmet, and I snap to and give him the okay sign. But I was literally sitting there in the funny car, sound asleep.
Wow.
So I do my burnout, I back up, and literally everybody on the starting line's laughing because they've now figured out what was going on. And, all the NHRA officials are laughing. The other team was laughing. All of my guys are laughing. But, yeah, I was sound asleep in the car.
So that was the only time, right?
That was it, yeah. That was the only time I can remember that I was actually strapped into the car and had gone to sleep. But, yeah.
All right, now, what would you consider to be the milestones of your racing career?
Well, again, the first win in 1990, being the first pro rookie ever to win his first race. I remember distinctly I reset the track record in Englishtown, New Jersey in 1990, and that was a big milestone. Prudhomme had set it the year before, and I went in there and broke the track record, and that was a big thing for me. And there's so many little milestones. I mean, I didn't win a lot of races. I mean, I only won 2 NHRA races. Both of those are milestones, I guess. But there's a lot of little milestones, I think, that mean a lot to me. But yeah.
So what was your biggest little milestone?
My biggest little milestone, probably having the most expensive transporter that ever showed up at NHRA. I have my mother to thank for part of that, but we decided we were going to build a new transporter in 1990. Harold Peck down at Champion Trailers built it for us, and my mother was so gracious to my dad and I, allowing us to spend all this money on the race team, that my dad said, you can do whatever you want to do in the lounge, and boy did she. Our cabinets in the back were black cabinets with gray cobra skin snake inserts in the cabinets, and polished aluminum on the sides of the trailer. And to my knowledge, as close as I can recollect, back then that trailer ended up, it either cost us $340,000 or $380,000. And so that was a milestone because everybody thought we were completely nuts. But my mom was happy, and it was a great transporter, so it all worked out.
So your mom supported your drag racing?
She did. She loved it. Yeah, she actually came out to a lot of the races, and my dad was on the road a lot still in the music business, and so he couldn't come to as many races as he would have liked to. He came to all of them he could, but yeah, she came out to a lot of the races. She loved it. She enjoyed it. And, then years later, my stepmother, she came out to the races, and it made her nervous, but she enjoyed it as well. So I've had, incredible support from all of my family, my aunts and uncles, cousins. They a lot of family support.
Do you have any siblings?
I have two stepsisters, and they've been my stepsisters for so long. They're just sisters, so they actually, I don't think they ever actually have been to a race, so I'll have to get them out there at, this next go around and let them smell some nitromethane.
Now, do you have any pets?
I do not. I travel too much to have pets, but actually when I was drag racing in '95, I had a long-haired dachshund that traveled with me on the road, and she was quite spoiled. But she traveled with me on the road. Had her little Louis Vuitton dog carrier that I'd take her on in the airplanes. But it was easier back then. Obviously, I had the motor home, and
Right.
But these days, no pets.
Right. So, Casey, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do this interview tonight.
Oh no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for reaching out, and hope everybody enjoys it.
You have any final words? Shout outs, anything before?
No, not really. I mean, I really do hope all this comes together. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'm definitely looking forward, to driving again. Looking forward to the adrenaline, but I'm also looking forward to going back out there and spending some time with the fans. I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that time with them, and I hope that some of the fans that are still drag racing fans from back when I was driving will look forward to seeing me back out there as well, and look forward to making some new fans.
Yeah, but it'd be really incredible if you meet a fan that was a little kid back then and they're grown up now and they remember you.
Absolutely. I hope that works out.
Like, oh man, I remember you put me in the seat of your funny car when I was a kid.
Well, like I said, we did that as much as we could. I think that's how you make fans of the future. That's maybe that kid wants to be a driver because you let him do that, and a lot of teams didn't want to do that. They were kind of weird about that, having somebody sit in the seat. A lot of drivers were kind of weird about that. I didn't care. It didn't bother me. I'm glad you got to sit in the seat. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yep. Now, if a kid listens to this interview and they're thinking, man, I want to be a funny car driver like Casey, what kind of advice would you give a little kid?
Don't go to college. Be a surgeon. Be a golf pro. Do anything. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Make something better of yourself, right?
No, I mean, it's a great way to make a living, and if that's really what somebody wants to do, I would encourage it. It's
follow your dream.
It's a tougher sport, than most people think it is. I mean, the travel is tough. The time away from home is tough, but it's great. I mean, you meet such wonderful people out there. Like I said, there really were no negatives to my entire career. I mean, little stumbling blocks, little roadblocks, little issues, but it was great, and that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to trying to get back out there and do it again.
Well, Casey, I wish you the best of luck getting back out there again.
I appreciate it.
And thanks.
Have a great evening.
You too. We'll do another one. If you start racing, if you start racing again, we'll do another one. All right.
That sounds great.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.